in Clearlake, California. Today is Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. It is 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Councilmember Slotin.
Here.
Councilmember Overton.
Here.
Councilmember Kramer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Claffey.
Here.
Mayor Purdock.
Here. Councilmember Overton, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you wouldn't mind remaining standing, and I'd just like to offer this time for a moment of silence that we might bring peace and well-being to all those around the world who are struggling right now. Thank you so much. Mr. Fleur, any changes to the agenda?
No modifications, Mr. Mayor.
Like a motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Overton and a second by Councilmember Kramer. All those in favor signify by saying aye and electronically vote. Aye.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Very good. Lieutenant, great to see you here tonight. I understand you have some dogs you'd like to show us that may be adoptable.
Nice one. It was really friendly.
This one?
Too big for me, though.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a nice little lap dog for you.
Good evening, everybody. This month's adoptable dog is Goliath. He's an 8-year-old Rottweiler mix. He is a volunteer favorite. He's very good on leash and enjoys his very, very long walks. He's a social butterfly and has made some friends while being at the shelter. He knows his manners very well, and he always wants to please. Goliath loves to play fetch and is still very active. He enjoys his adventures, but also loves cuddles and snuggles on the couch. Goliath is the perfect companion, and he can't wait to meet you. He is neutered and up to date on all vaccines. The shelter is located at 6820 Old Highway 53, and we're open 9 to 6 daily. Please come and meet all of our wonderful dogs. We have lots to choose from.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just trying to get the dog on the camera there.
I know, I saw you.
That was more
It was a very good attempt.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that.
Off a little bit there.
Okay, so the current count in the shelter is there's 51 dogs in the shelter currently. There are no puppies, there are no cats, and there are currently 2 kittens in the shelter. This year to date, from January, we've taken in 201 dogs into the shelter. We have dispositions for 172 of the dogs. 71 of the dogs went to rescue. 70 dogs were returned to the owners. 31 were adopted. 1 was euthanized, and 6 have either died or lost in shelter care. We have a live release rate currently at 96%.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Good. Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation as always. Moving on, presentations and certificates of appreciation for the Trunk or Treat event. Ms. Vermontes. Can I meet you down there?
Yep.
I have them to give.
Good evening.
Speaking to the microphone.
If they're around here, they don't need to see you.
Okay.
This is our party and planning director.
Party and planning director.
Recreation and events.
Partner.
Coordinator.
I like party planning.
Okay, I do too.
And parades. Party
Parades.
planning and parades.
Concerts, much fun. So we did our trunk or treat this year. We had it at the youth center. We also had a movie afterwards. Several people from the community contributed to this. I'm gonna just read off the names because only a couple are here, and then the ones that are here I'll do last. That's okay. We had the Police Officers Association. We had Dale and Karen Valentine, Kathy Wells, Travis Harborth, Catherine Miller, Adam Viramontes, Aubrey Weiss, Emberlyn Weiss, Johnny Lindsay, Pierce Edwards, Clearlake K-9, Amy Avila, Dayanira Lopez, Michelle Perry Higgins, Grocery Outlet, and then we had Melissa Swanson, Adeline Leba, Kathy Wells, Cheryl Allman, and Joyce Overton, and last but not least, we had Chris Jennings, who not only donated candy, but he also donated the big screen TV inside the youth center. He also paid for the movies, all of our movie series this year, he did that.
Thank you.
I didn't prepare a speech.
Oh, come on. You always have a speech prepared. What are you talking about?
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
The camera's right over there.
Oh, yeah, I guess I gotta talk. Thank you to the city. I always try to contribute, whether it's to the police department or to the youth. Hopefully, everything I try to participate in makes some sort of a positive impact in those lives. So, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Overton?
No, do I have to go down there? Thank you, but you should do that.
If you wouldn't mind accepting these, I know you're no longer a part of the Police Officers Association, but you know the guys.
I'm associated with them.
He associates with him.
Thank you very much. Thank you for helping. Thank you, everybody,
Did you get
for
it?
helping. I went by the trunk or treat. How many people would you estimate were there? The parking lot was packed and overflowing.
We had at least 1,500 to 1,800 kids. We had about 40 cars, and it was fun.
It was a great event. Thank you again. Party your planning director.
I'm good at estimating it now.
All right, next we will move on to public comment. Public comment is a time for anyone who wants to speak about an opinion or share an issue with City Council. Just remember that we are not able to respond or answer questions, but we would love to hear from you. We do need to comply with the Brown Act, so it can't be anything that's on the agenda tonight. We will discuss those things at that time. And I have a request to speak from Bob and Mary LaCroix. Please, come on up to the mic. They want to talk to us about parking citations.
Mary LaCroix.
Thank you.
Basically, my wife, on Halloween, which was her birthday, we were in Walmart, and she was all excited about it because every time the birthday comes, all the kids come over, and it's like her birthday. So she was all excited and nervous. We forgot to hang up the placard. Man came over, gave us a ticket. I understand it completely. He had no way of knowing if I was illegal or not. So, and I agree with the fine, because anybody who takes someone else's should be fined as maximum as they want to. However, we were fined $275. And the gist of the thing is that it was as if we were not handicapped. We are both handicapped. I'm 90 years old, and I'm a veteran of Korea, and I'm what they call a traveling salesman.
We'll give you some liberty, sir. Please, go ahead.
I'm a traveling veteran. So anyway, if this council could do anything, a ticket of $275 is just, we're on Social Security, and our total income is $1,600 a month. This would be very...
Sir, thank you for bringing this to our attention. If you wouldn't mind, I think Lieutenant in the back of the room would like to talk with you about that.
That's
Thank you, we appreciate your
You're very welcome. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Please step forward. If you could, introduce yourself and the topic. Oh, that's okay, just leave it on the table, that's fine.
Okay. Yes, my name is Andrew Kirkendall. And I would like to I'm requesting the board to try to seek a change in the city manager. I believe he does not have the best interests in the city. The city manager has been giving bad advice to the city council and ultimately has caused tremendous financial damage. And I feel it's only going to get worse until a change is made. I personally don't know the city manager, but based on his management and ideologies, he does not have the best interest in the city of Clearlake. His management skills and opinions are not facts. They are not reflecting historical preservations, state laws, and the Constitution. He has his own agenda of what he wants the city to be and is financially burdening the community by his legitimate permanent actions. When there is a housing crisis and limited amenities, the city manager and the council can be doing a better job at managing this city. I have learned that the city manager is the jury, the judge, and the executioner and speaks on the behalf of the city in regards to the building department and gets the board to submit to his requests. How many more lawsuits does it take for the city to go bankrupt? Seeking a resolution is the utmost benefit to this community. The government should be working with its people and not disrespecting its citizens. There are property owners that pay property taxes and citizens who want to clean up Clearlake and make it a safer place to live. And by judgments, the city manager feels they have more power. Keeping neighborhoods in ghetto status becomes everybody's problems. There is urgent abatement issues that have been neglected and ignored for years. It's a squatter's paradise, and the taxpayers have to suffer. But the city just waits and hopes for the next tax delinquent sale to solve their problems. And the constant excuse is because there's not enough money. But the city has no problem in handing over $500,000 for litigation defenses. The city is being managed like a city in a third world country, not America. We need someone who cares enough for its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Very good, seeing none. Madam Clerk, are there any on Zoom attending?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close public comment at this time. Move on to item G, the consent agenda. Is there any member of the council who would like to pull an item? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kramer and a second by Councilmember Slotin. All those in favor? Aye.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item H, business number 8, discussion and possible action related to the proposal request for a rate increase by Golden State Water Company, application 23-08-010. Mr. Flora.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. So we talked about this item a few weeks ago, as you recall, and the decision was made by the council to continue the item, try to get a little bit more information from Golden State, and then make a decision on how to be involved. So we have a couple representatives of Golden State Water here in the audience. So at this point, well, I went back and watched the video to make sure that I remembered the questions, and you had asked for information on the impact of the fire connection fee that was included in the rate increase. That was one thing that was increasing with the first part of that proposal. Fire hydrant flow data, and then capital improvement projects completed in the last 5 years. So with that, I think the council did receive from Mr. Ahart last week, maybe, a list of the active fire hydrants in Golden State's system. But beyond that, I haven't received any other additional information. So presumably, Golden State is here to discuss that with you. So that's really the presentation I have, unless you have any questions for me.
I have none, sir. Does member council have a question?
Not at this point.
Very good. Mr. Ahart, would you like to step forward and introduce your guest? Thank you both for being here. Do a good job.
As you guys know, I'm Keith Ahart, Operations Superintendent for Golden State Water Company. This evening, I'm going to introduce Paul Schubert. He's the general manager over the northern area. Well, now it's Water Supply Southern California as well, but he's our general manager, and he will be able to answer more in depth some of the questions that you had for me last time.
Thank you, Mr. Ahart. Appreciate your help. Sir, welcome.
Good evening, thank you. So, there's a series of questions you asked, and I did bring some paperwork. A lot of it is actually, can you hear me okay on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not a big Mike fan, so of the amount of capital work we've done in this last 5 years. 5 years is a little awkward position, so I went back to our 2017 rate case. So every 3 years, as we've mentioned, we have to file a general rate case with PUC, so that's a requirement, we do that. So in the 2017 rate case, we were approved on capital work, $4.3 million. We actually spent about $4.5 million, so we overspent our capital there. And I know a question, I'm going to come back to that about which project we actually got done. In the 2020 rate case, we were approved for $3.3 million in capital. We spent $3.9 million in capital. So again, we overspent our capital in both rate case cycles on that. This rate case cycle, for comparison, we're asking for about $6.6 million in capital improvements for the system, and that's the cause of the significant rate impact if we do not get consolidation. I know the consolidation was a question about how that was going to work and what that impacted, or whether the same amount of capital we done or not with consolidation. We're actually asking for almost double the amount of capital work with no impact on the rates if we get the consolidation. So that's the key point I really want to make there. The rate impact would actually be on the Arden Cordova CSA about a 0.3%. It's actually 0.26%, somewhere in there, versus a very large increase in Clearlake, which none of us want to do that. That's why we're asking for consolidation.
We're being asked if you could just put the microphone a little closer to your mouth.
We're on TV too, so.
Is that better right there?
I think so.
Okay.
Let's try it.
All right, we'll give it a shot. The other question was on fire flow, I believe, not just fire hydrants, but I believe there's some questions about the actual
Right.
fire flow. Right. So Keith went out and did some fire flow around some schools and the city hall here. So Burns Valley Elementary School, we did a fire flow, it was about 1,948 gallons per minute at 20 PSI. The city hall here was 2,890 GPM at 20 PSI. And then Pomo Elementary School, he did two of them over there. I have to ask him why. One was about 2,700 GPM, the other one was 3,100 GPM. And I asked if he could have the fire marshal go out there and just verify, just do a fire flow test at one of those sites to make sure our numbers are accurate. And they were kind enough to do so. At the Pomo School, it's 2,948 GPM, what their fire flow did. So it matches our data. It's on a different day, so it's right there. So
Could you repeat those addresses, please?
I'm just going to ask one question. Supervisor Sabatier, can you hear in the back? Can you hear in the back?
A little higher.
Okay.
a little higher? Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I've been in meetings all day talking quite a bit.
It's okay. I want to make sure everybody can hear because I think that's why they're here.
Yep. If it's okay, I could actually hand this piece of paper to you.
Sure. If you can hand it to our manager.
This is one from the fire marshal. All right, and then, so fire flow, capital investments, impact on rates. Am I missing a question?
Yeah, the fire connection.
We have some.
We still have some people in the back who still can't hear, so let's try to speak up. Make sure your mics are turned on.
So the fire connection fee, I have to pull up the language, so forgive me if it's not super precise, but there was an increase in the rate, like per inch or whatever for that. And so we weren't real familiar with exactly what that meant, so maybe you can kind of explain.
So for a commercial building that has a private fire service, so it's a dedicated fire service for like sprinklers or something for a commercial building, it doesn't have a meter on there, so it's just charged a flat rate per inch size of fire service. So it's going from $6.50 per diameter inch to $8 per diameter inch. So if you had a 6-inch fire service, a private fire service, which would be what, 6 times 6, 36, $39, would go up to $48. What I don't know is if that rate, and I could look into this, and I apologize I didn't, with the consolidation, is that increase still there? That I don't know.
My reading of the rate case is yes, but that would be helpful to verify it.
Okay.
So, I did have the number a week or two ago. I don't recall what it is. I mean, Golden State is primarily serves residential customers. There are some, this building is served by Golden State. So mainly, I mean, you have a few school facilities, and the stuff here on, I guess, the south side of Olympic Drive is primarily the commercial. If I recall correctly, I think there's between 30 and 40 commercial connections in the Golden State system of being affected by the rate.
It is a very small number. Mostly our customers are residential.
Very good, thank you. Vice Mayor, you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a clarification on point one, the capital investment. You said $6.6 million. Is that including the merger, and what proportion of that would come to the Clearlake system?
No, this is all Clearlake. And I'm sorry, it was 6.275 million. So 6,275,900 is what we're asking for. Of that, about 5.7 million is in water supply projects. 2.7 million is in water main projects. 610 for improvements to our treatment plant, and another about $1.5 million in what we call blankets, which is meters and services and minor mains and all the things that just, the churn that went out. So all that is actually spent in Clearlake here.
That's in the current,
That's in our current application, yes.
so that'll happen over 3 years?
Correct, yes. Again, to put that into context, the 2020 GRC was $3,328,526. So it's almost doubling the amount of capital that we're asking to spend. And as you know, I mean, everybody knows, cost of everything is skyrocketing. So just to do main replacement projects, which touches to a point I think somebody asked at the last meeting is, you know, we don't always do the project that we listed in the GRC that we asked for. Hey, we want to replace the mains over here on Valley View. Well, the city is going to repave over on Olympic, so we pivot and spend the $2 million on the mains over in Olympic instead of Valley View, which is what we list in our request. Because we're forecasting what's happening 3 to 5 years out. And as we all know, I mean, things change, the world changes. But we, as I've shown, we're actually spending more capital than what we're getting approved for.
If I can just ask for a definition, what's GRC?
I'm sorry, general rate case.
Okay.
It's a general rate case every 3 years.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have several of them. I was provided with an old set of fire hydrant flows, and obviously there are additional fire hydrants installed, so that's a good thing, but I still don't have very much confidence in the number that you provided today, because of the, at that time, there were 132 fire hydrants. Now you have over 180, I believe. About 45% didn't have adequate fire flow. The next question is, the Public Advocacy Office stated in their letter in opposition of your request that you haven't performed and the projects that you said you would. Maybe you had an explanation of that gave you that. And the other portion that I'm really concerned about is that according to some data that was pulled out of your websites, is that based on a investment in our system, the Clearlake system is the least amount invested in compared to all your other districts.
So I heard three distinct questions in there. So
Right.
I'm going to try to keep them in order. All right, the first one is we went from a certain number of hydrants up to a higher number of hydrants. That's because we've been replacing mains. As we replace water mains, we get to add the steam, what we call steamers, 6-inch water mains or fire hydrants, which increases fire flow and increases the number of fire hydrants in the system. I'm not sure why you're disputing the numbers. Those came right out of our GIS system of the number of fire hydrants we have and the fire flows that we're
These were old ones. I think that's the only set I received like 2 years ago or so.
Okay.
If I can help clarify, I think, so he's not, I don't think he's disputing the number of hydrants, but he has been provided some older fire flow data for the hydrants that you had previously. And he's saying 45% of those 130 or whatever it was didn't meet adequate fire flows.
That could very well be the case. It absolutely could be the case. That's why we're investing in the water mains and in the hydrants to increase the fire flow. So.
And do you remember the other questions?
Oh, no, there's two other questions. I'm sorry. Okay,
I don't.
hydrants was one. What was your second one?
The second, the Public Advocacy Office stated in their letter in opposition to your request that you haven't performed on the ones on the previous rate increase based on a certain amount of public improvement projects, and that you're now asking for the same amount of money again, basically.
And I think you're paraphrasing a little bit, but the point is very good. It's a good point. And it's an example I'm giving where we budgeted to do a bunch of mains around Valley View. It's called a Valley View AMR, area main replacements. But instead, we're taking that money and going to go do an Olympic area because the city is going to pave that. So we need to get in there and spend, I think the estimate, 2.2 million, somewhere in there, 2.2 million that we're shifting from Valley View, which the public advocates will probably criticize us for saying that we asked for that project and we didn't spend it on that project, but we're going to spend it on a different project. So the money is being spent on the capital, in the system, in the community. It doesn't always line up with exactly what we forecasted years in advance.
No, but we have a forecast of which streets are going to be replaced.
And that's not always holds true either. A lot of that depends on your finances and which streets are going to get paved. And we do try to work with the city and make sure that our mains get put in prior to the paving, because nobody wants to cut open brand new streets because it gets very expensive. Third?
The third question, if I have this listing here, and you can have a copy of it, it says the different service areas that Golden State owns, and it looks like on this particular analysis that the improvements per service is the lowest here in Clearlake compared to, I mean, all of them.
Thank you. That actually really supports why I'm hopeful that you support the consolidation, because Clearlake is a single standalone rate-making area. So the 2,200 customers we have pay 100% of all the costs for the full service, the full capital, the expenses, everything is borne by those customers. If we consolidate, we actually subsidize Clearlake with other customers, which is what we'll be doing in this application. So if you look at the size of the service area, if you're comparing, we have a metro service area that has 100,000 connections. The amount of capital for those 100,000 connections will obviously be much higher than Clearlake with the 2,000 connections, because the rates, you couldn't afford the rate. I mean, the rates are high now. We don't want them any higher. So that's what limits the amount of capital. That's why we're asking for this consolidation, so we can do the amount of capital that the system needs and not have the impact on rates.
Okay, the other question I have is, so aren't we kind of trading Peter for Paul? Have Art and Cordova paying for us?
Yes.
How did they feel about that?
Well, so far, they haven't yelled at me too much for it. But if you look at the filing, the impact of their rates is about a 0.23% impact. It's pennies. Because we're spreading about a much, much larger customer base.
See, if I look at, I don't know if this is all correct, but this is the best that I could figure out, okay? The Clearlake Water District per gallon is about 2.8 cents, and the Arden Cordova is 0.45 cent.
Okay?
So they have a lot cheaper water than we do.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Is this,
Hold your comments, please.
this is per gallon. We get the water out of the lake here.
Yeah, but the difference, sir, and that's a good point, is we're drilling a well, well, we already drilled a well, at the Sonoma treatment plant. We drilled a well, and that well cost $1 million. 2,000 people are paying for that $1 million well. I drilled a well in the Cordova system. It cost me $1 million, but I have 17,000 people paying for that $1 million. That's the difference.
And if you drill one here, you have 2,000.
We already drilled one here.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
because of the drought and
So it's
curtailment,
because
so
of the-
we're
how
adding
many
a well
people
at
are
the
paying
treatment
into
plant.
it.
So it's
That makes
the
sense.
customer base, it's all a number game. So that's why by consolidating, we get a much larger customer base that supports Clearlake. And yes, you would be subsidized by other areas. And yes, I have to stand in front of the city council of another city that's actually doing the subsidizing of this city. So, and I'm comfortable doing that because it's the right thing to do.
Councilmember Kramer.
Yeah, I think in the application, you had also
Yeah.
said
Sorry.
that our rates under the one would be frozen.
Correct.
How long will they be frozen?
To be frozen for this rate case.
For
this
3 years.
And then what we're asking for is after that, it only goes up by CPI until the rates come together, which will not happen, as you just mentioned, the difference in that
Our
delta
lifetime.
in rates, it will take lifetimes for that to come up. So yes, what it does is not only just immediate rate relief, trying to use that word carefully, the rates will go up. They're not coming down, but they won't go up. This rate cycle, the next rate cycle would be CPI. Whatever the CPI is, that's what they go up. And the Cordova rates would continue to increase until sometimes there's parity, which again will take a very long time for that to happen.
So Cordova is not limited to the CPI?
No. No, if you look at the application, the very front page there, the Northern Consolidated is at 21.39%. And I do want to point, thank you so much for whoever, you've made the link to our application on your website and on your agenda. Getting proper information out there is very, very helpful. So thank you, whoever, I don't know who to look at. Whoever did that, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. No, it's great because good information out there is very, very helpful. So we do appreciate that. We send mailers out, of course, and most of our stuff ends up in the garbage. You know, it's with direct mail. Nobody reads that stuff. But if you look at the Northern Consolidated, which is Arden, Cordova, and Clearlake together, the rates would go up 21.39%, and that would be on the Cordova's bills. The Clearlake bill would stay the same. Without the consolidation, Arden, Cordova goes up 21.13%. So you see that difference is 0.26% is the difference in that consolidation. I mean, it's very minimal. It's literally, you know, we're talking pennies here.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members? Sir, thank you very much for being here and for answering these questions. I am going to open it up for public comment, so you might want to stay a little close in case someone has a question for you that we can't answer. At this time, I'm going to open this up. Go ahead, sir.
Can I ask, you know, I'm just make my pitch. I'd love for the city to write a letter to the PUC supporting consolidation. That would mean a lot. It would go along with the PUC also. And I think it's in everybody's best interest, the community. When I say everybody, I don't want to speak for Rancho Cordova. But it's definitely in the community's best interest to have this rate consolidation. I mean, there's no downside, it's all upside. So I really appreciate that consideration.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter here tonight? Now is the time to do so. Just step up and introduce yourself. In case we don't know you, Cheryl.
Cheryl, I'm in the city of Clearlake. I just want to thank you. Having worked with the Public Utility Commission myself, it is difficult to get clear information and supportive information and consistent information, and especially during a rate case to try to educate all of the people who don't see all the intricacies of how government works. And if you think you're complicated, believe me, you sound, I can at least follow what you guys are doing. So appreciating that, and I agree, anybody who can approach this Public Utility Commission and say, we really want this, is gonna help us in the long run to spread costs over a larger group of people.
Thank you, Cheryl. Anyone else, Supervisor Sabatier, that would like to speak to this matter?
Good evening, Bruno Sabatier, City of Clearlake, also supervisor. This is always difficult. Nobody wants to see the rates increase. I will tell you that from my experience, and obviously also from your experience, trying to combat the CPUC on rate increases is just not a winning battle. It sounds like there's an alternative that can benefit those that do have Golden State Water. I am not a fan of Golden State's philosophy or their privatized water tactics, but we do have a good manager here that does care for the community. We see him doing stuff in our community, always contributing back to the community, and I feel that at his word that this is something that we should look into and make sure that this is the better alternative than just trying to fight an increase. This is an opportunity to decrease that by a whole lot. I don't know what the time frame of how long it will be frozen. I know in a conversation I was told indefinitely that's not possible, but even if it's 3 years, it's better than these 3 years getting a 40% that you, again, cannot fight at the CPUC. I'm waiting for your guys' kind of lead to take similar letter that you would write to the Board of Supervisors to make sure that we are all on the same page and fighting for the same thing, but wanted to provide you my opinion, and I think that you at least, it's amazing to have an alternative to this rather than a yes or no to a rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. Anyone else wanting to speak on this matter, please step forward. Seeing none, I will close public comment on this item, except I need to check with Madam Clerk and anybody on Zoom.
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Any final comments or deliberation? Then we need to provide direction to staff.
For providing us.
Turn your mic on, and if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, I think I'm in support of this, of the consolidation, so I am in support of us writing the letter. I don't see where it doesn't benefit us. Rancho Cordova maybe, but but not us. But it doesn't seem like it's going to harm them too much either. So,
Thank you, Councilmember. Vice Mayor?
I concur. I would say I would support the. I concur. I would say I would support the merger. I still think we should be involved in this process, though. We have incredibly high rates, and we need full transparency on the process. And however the city can get involved in this process, I think we should.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Anyone else have comment? Sir, Councilmember Kramer.
I also concur with Councilwoman Overton and Vice Mayor Claffey. I think it seems like it's plain slim, no other decision that we could make. Like I said, like Supervisor Sabatier said, even if it's just 3 years of frozen rates, that's better than 40% increase, which we could possibly get if we didn't get that. And PUC, we know CPUC will do what they want. So I would be in concurrence with that. I also would like for us to be involved in the process going forward in whatever manner we can.
Thank you, Councilmember. Yes, I concur. Is there any other areas we could be combined with? I was just throwing that out there. Councilmember Slotin?
I'm in favor of continue to monitor this. I think there's a way we can be part of the procedures. I appreciate the general manager to give us additional information, although I still like to see more flow data, but that's just me. So.
No, and thank you. Thank you for traveling all the way up here. I appreciate your personal expense and time. But as I was saying, anything we can do to try to reduce the rates. We live in a very beautiful area. Unfortunately, our water rates are so high, most folks can't afford a yard. And personal property improvements really beautify a city. And that's one of the things we were on the top of our strategic plan that we would like to see done. So anything we can do in partnership with Golden State would be greatly appreciated. And Canocti too, because I saw you come in.
I have one additional comment, though. I did an analysis a couple of years ago, and at that point, Golden State is obviously the most expensive one, by approximately $500 per year per customer. So hopefully this will help for that. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Overton.
for the city manager, I think. How can we keep track of this? And like they all say, they want to be involved, but is there a way that we can watch this and see the progression of this?
Yes, my understanding is that we really have two options. There was talk about submitting a letter, so there's a public comment option, which is what we did 3 years ago. The other option is to actually join the proceeding. We talked about it a little bit last time. And, you know, if everyone understands, I think I'm hearing that that's what you also
You have
want to do.
consensus to move forward?
And so if you gave direction for that, then we would join the proceeding. So it would just, you know, we would stay in the loop on everything, be able to see additional information. As I understand, I haven't been a part of that previously myself, but think, you know, water's important here in the city, as you've all been talking about, and I think, you know, it would be good for us to go ahead and do that. We could additionally send public comment, a letter of support of the consolidated district. Happy to do that if you direct that as well.
Kind of what I was wondering.
But it sounds like you want to go ahead and send the letter supporting that and then direct staff to also take steps to become part of the proceeding.
Yes.
You have that correct, sir. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for your manager here in our area. He is a good neighbor. He's been a longtime friend. And we do very much appreciate what he does for our community and with your support at Golden State. Thank you.
Including what they're going to be supporting here at Thanksgiving. I got your letter, Mr. Ahart.
So we appreciate it. If you could drop those rates, that would be fantastic.
We'd really appreciate that.
Very good.
It's always good to have a comic as a mayor.
Wasn't trying to be funny. All right, moving on to item H9, discussion and consideration of adoption of an employee home loan assistance program. Mr. Flora.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, so been wanting to bring this back to you for a while. Was a little surprised to see the last time we talked about it was October of last year. Wow. So we brought up the idea then, I went back because it's been so long and watched the video on this one as well, and kind of had forgotten some of the ideas that some of the council members brought up. So anyway, you know, we're proud of the retention that we have with our city employees over the last number of years. You think, you know, there's a lot of value in that from a number of angles, and one thing that could be additionally helpful is helping employees purchase a home in the city if they would like to. So well, maybe I should start by seeing if I can do a quick overview of the items that the council mentioned last time as being priorities. One, that you have to buy a home in the city limits, that it be owner occupied. It seemed like most of the council settled on around 5 years. And then there was some talk about the amount, percentage or flat rate or whatever. And then there was also a couple of other ideas raised. One, that if an employee stayed employed by the city for, say, 10 years, that perhaps there was some forgiveness of the loan amount. And then another idea was brought down, which is even more important today than it was a year ago, which is using some of the money possibly to buy down the rate. So I think, you know, all of these things are possible. The program we talked a little bit last time that I still really like in a lot of ways is one that actually came out of Walnut Creek, and it's not a traditional loan in the sense that you know, we would record essentially a second. In most cases there would be a first mortgage. We would require that the buyer be able to pay the closing costs on the first mortgage and a minimum of 5% down payment. There wouldn't be interest charged on our loan, and no monthly payments would be required. But when the home was sold or refinanced, we would get the loan amount back and then any appreciation in value after the time the loan was given. So for example, if the assistance that the city provided was 10% of the home value whenever the loan was made, and then it appreciated, we would get 10% of that appreciation. So that's sort of a way of collecting interest without the homeowner having to pay for it during the process.
Quick question there, if I may.
You're asking the wrong person, but I'm.
Yeah, I didn't know if he's done with his presentation.
Well, it's about the point that he just talked about. I just wanted a clarification. I can wait. I'll probably forget.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
If the home is refinanced, how would that appreciation be determined by an appraisal of the house?
Yes.
As part of the refinance package, the lenders, so we're not going to send an appraiser out. We go with the.
No, I mean, we can kind of craft this however we like. The way Walnut Creek does it is, and they also require an appraisal when you do the loan, of course, as well. And they pay for half of the appraisal, the homeowner pays for half of it. And then, so we would set up that process to make it more clear on how that calculation was all done. There's good examples of that. I just didn't know if you wanted to go through all that too.
Into the weeds. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So the idea being that there's no actual term limit on the loan, but that it would be due immediately on cash out or refinance. I was talking to Vice Mayor Claffey about this. I think, it's would be good advice to try to track some of this stuff and work with folks who do participate in, perhaps a few years from now when interest rates are lower and encouraging them actually to, refinance for a lower rate, but that's kind of a separate thing. Kind of trying to come up with something that plays off of the council's idea, requiring that the home be owner occupied for 5 years, pick a date perhaps after an additional 5 years, or if they're with the city for 10 years, then maybe the original loan amount has to be repaid, but any increase in value is not required. What Walnut Creek does is if, there are going to be situations where this is going to happen, an employee is going to, have to move to another state for family reasons or whatever the issue may be, at that point, then the loan would convert to a traditional amortized loan. So kind of the other thing I just wanted to throw out, since we've been talking about this, I've talked to a number of employees who were interested in a program like this. I would just say that everyone's situation is a little bit different, and I think having a program like this could be a big benefit. My recommendation is that it not be all on the city manager's discretion related to this, but to use our existing loan committee, which does our homestead program and our CDBG loans and stuff. Give them as much flexibility as we can in kind of looking at individual situations and seeing if maybe a tweak here or there might make sense for that particular situation. So that's kind of the overview I have. Happy to address any questions or other ideas that you may have.
So the only question I'm going to ask, and I'll get over to you, Councilmember Overton, there was no mention of insurance and notification if insurance is applied or has been terminated. I'd like the city to be noticed on that.
Definitely.
Yeah, we have to keep track on that. We do that on our other loans. Well, I would say that I think over the years there's been a varying level of how well we've kept track of that, but it has bitten us a few times, and so that's something that we would want to follow up on. There's, in most ways, if there's a traditional first, there's not as many likelihoods of running into a problem as some of the old loans that the city did, which were rehab loans on a mobile home or something like that, which we were the only loan in there, and so, but you're right, we have to keep track and make sure that that's being tracked and there's.
Thank you. Councilmember Overton.
So So there's some things I disagree with kind of in this here. I believe that 5 years, I believe it should be owner occupied, period. I believe that if they transfer after 5 years or whatever, they transfer to a rental or something, that they have to start paying an amortization on our loan. You know, I mean, it's only fair. They're making money off of it, then we should be making money off of it. So if they're making money off of the money we're trying to help them with, then I think it needs to turn into a regular, automatically turn into a regular loan if they're not occupying it. You know, if they're occupying it, I'm fine, you know. But if they're gonna turn around and rent it out or something, then I think we should get our money too. And I'm not so sure about waiving everything after 10 years, maybe stopping the process from progressing, but I think we should still, at that point, still have some kind of percentage of something. And then if their service is 10 years, then maybe we can stop it at that point of 10 years and not progress it. My thought.
Just to follow up on that, sir, what do you think the maximum amount of a loan might be for a home in the city of Clear Lake?
Well, I mean, there's a big range. I mean, I was
there
kind
is.
of doing some various calculations based on,
Hypothetically, if you're very rich and a city manager wanted to move into the city and buy a mini
there's a
mansion.
few things that are wrong with your, a little synopsis there, but, you know, I was kind of using like 350,000
Okay.
as.
Kind of a base.
Yeah, kind of a base. And I think, you know, somewhere between 50 and 75,000, I think, is what would be necessary to sort of accomplish a purchase at that level. And you know, I mean, you know, we learned this through some of our loan applications and the importance of trying to make sure that a buyer comes in and doesn't have to pay PMI. I mean, that can be a huge issue. So assuming that we're going to be able to bring in and cover the 20%, they have to do 5%, we're doing the rest, making sure they have closing costs. You know, you're going to be in the $60,000, $70,000 range for a $350,000.
So they can't use it for a first, I mean, for a down payment.
No, I think that would be most likely the part,
Okay.
big part of it, yeah, would be towards down payment, yeah.
And buying down a loan or the
Oh,
rate.
I did forget to mention,
Sorry,
I did talk to a loan officer about the possibility of buying down rates, and I was supposed to get some information that I haven't gotten yet on that, but, you know, I think there's pros and cons, it sounds like, of doing that. You know, right now, it makes sense, but, you know, if interest rates are, you know, it's not going to happen in a year, but say they were back to what they were a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, was that money well spent on our part on behalf of the buyer to buy down the rates? Because they're saying it costs about 1% of the purchase price to get a 0.5% reduction in your rate, right? And so, you know, I don't know. I mean, that is something that, you know, we could look at further if you would like to. It definitely sounds like there's some pros and cons that I hadn't thought about in talking with the loan officer about it, so.
Thank you.
So we could put it in as a negotiable item.
We could put it in as an option, so, and then the, you know, the loan committee could take a look at it and make a decision.
Because things will change over, you know, 4 or 5 or 10 years for certain. So I think you need to leave it so that you can have some room to adjust to whatever is happening at the time that the change is made. I think if we set this in concrete now, it's going to come back and bite us. So I think you need to have some flexibility.
Yeah, thank you for your patience, Vice Mayor. You had a comment?
Similar vein to Councilmember Overton, perhaps a limit of just one loan per employee. I know what you're saying. I think that would be a good way to restrict someone. You know, if a city manager is here 20 years, you could buy 4 homes through this program. We don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Good point. Any other comments?
I don't know. Just actually one. How many people have taken advantage of this at this point?
Well, no one, we don't have a program, but, I mean, in the last year, I've talked to 3 employees that have interest in it, and I think right now, we have, one or two that have some active interest in taking it. I mean, I don't think there's going to be 20 people that do it. I mean, a lot of people are already established here and, they don't really need the program per se. So it's a little bit more forward-thinking than the folks we have here today. But,
Right.
we're, we're doing a great job of bringing on a lot of new police officers. And, I can see it being a little more popular in the next few years.
All right, and just to, you have something else?
Well, I was just going to say, this program years ago, when the city first developed, the police department had a program where
That was a federal grant, I was just going to mention
federal
that.
grant where they could help them buy a house, and it really kind of helped get us, our police department kind of going. So I see kind of the same with this here as, it's kind of an incentive, too.
Do you remember that? Cops Next Door. It's part of community policing, government, federal grants. Great program. Okay, I'm going to open it up for public. Anyone wanting to comment on this, please step forward to the mic.
Cheryl Allman again. I just want to clarify a couple of things. We're not only looking at the new employees as an opportunity, but also other existing employees that could go for it as well. And I would like that to be within the city if possible, because that only helps us have greater support and timely activity within our employee pool. So on that, I would expect them to be owner-occupied. Once they're not, then that needs to be part of the closure or closeout. That's it.
One of the stipulations is that the home must be within the city limits.
Okay, yes.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure, because initially I didn't hear that people, employees that exist also have that same opportunity.
They do. Right. Yes, any other questions or comments?
Hi, good evening to everybody. I am not, I don't have a lot of experience in loans and how they work, but I'm just first off curious, if people would have to buy their home in the city of Clearlake, I would think, right?
That's required?
Yeah, and then as far as owner occupied, I think that's got to be a must. But I'm curious, is this for folks who do not currently own a home? Is this first-time buyer type of thing? Or could they own homes in other cities? Is there any stipulation there as far as, is this like, the most important, would this be their first home purchase, in other words?
Go ahead.
That's a good question.
Mr. Flo.
Well, yeah, the way it's envisioned now is not that, we do have a first-time homebuyer program that anyone in the community with certain income requirements could qualify for. This would not be envisioned as that. If an employee currently lives in Kelseyville and wanted to purchase or build a new house in the city of Clearlake, they would be eligible for this program to do that, as it's envisioned currently. Yeah.
So how would they live in it then if they lived in Kelseyville?
They'd rent the house in Kelseyville and live in
Sell
Clearlake.
it.
Or
Okay,
sell
so
it.
that would be a whole lot of follow-up from you guys.
They would just have to live in Clearlake, ma'am.
Right, okay. And am I understanding correctly, they don't have to pay this loan back, or?
No.
Okay, so what are you saying as far as, after 10 years, if they're still an employee, what would happen?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, that's still a little bit undetermined at this point.
Right.
We've discussed a few different options. What was initially proposed was they would have to pay the loan back. They would not have to make monthly payments or be accrued any interest on the loan. Once the house is sold or refinanced, then the loan would become due back to the city. And we did discuss the possibility after a certain period of time, say 10 years, a portion of what was due being forgiven. But that, I think, needs to have more discussion with the county.
Right.
Okay, so one last thing, as far as, all this stuff, there's a lot to think about as far as you guys, I would think, but now, this money is coming from where exactly?
Mr. Farrar?
So the city has some housing funds that were left over from the redevelopment agency days that we would use to fund this program. It's the same funding source that we're funding the homestead program and some other.
So in other
housing
words, it would be the city of Clear Lake's money.
Correct.
Yeah, but it's specifically dedicated for housing.
And housing
So,
improvements,
how much money is that they have left over from whatever it is you're saying?
redevelopment.
Yeah.
It's been a bit since I looked at that. I think there's around $2 million available.
Okay, so now my main thing is, you guys are going into this litigation. You had to take $250,000 from some other fund to put towards litigation. Litigation's important. All of a sudden, you think you've got money to be forgiving and this and that. I'm wondering is how frugal this thinking should
Can I answer
be.
that? That money is set aside specifically for housing and can't be used for litigation, correct?
So I'm just saying, it seems like, so the money is just for housing, in other
Correct.
words, that's what you're saying. And the other money, I won't bring that up, but I'm just curious where the other 250 for litigation is being borrowed.
That came from the park
From the
project
park.
that we'd set aside for the park.
Okay. Well, I just think, I hope you guys are thinking frugally.
We're
because
thinking frugally.
It seems like there's a lot of money still needed for the city in other areas that you guys could be focusing on and not giving out loans and forgiving this and forgiving that. I don't know, but I
It's
just,
budgeted just for that. We can't use it for anything else.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just, oh, you're talking about.
I'm
the
answering your
money.
question.
Right, right.
Vice Mayor?
All right, so I'm just wanting to also, about seasonal vacation homes. These folks aren't gonna be just.
That's off topic, and we're not going to talk about that tonight.
Okay,
So
so
we need to
this
stay,
decision won't be made tonight,
we're going to give direction to the staff on what we think we should do.
and when would it be, I'll just follow up with
Just
you guys.
be patient and stay tuned.
Thank you for giving me the time.
You bet. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. The forgiveness is not on the original loan amount that's being proposed right now. So if someone borrows $10,000, they would have to pay back $10,000. It's just whether we charge interest, whether we charge a percentage based on the appreciation of the home. But I will say, after hearing public comment, I think it is important that this is going to be an owner-occupied home throughout the length of its involvement within this program. I do want to make it a smooth transition out of the program if they choose to go that route, because, again, at the end of the day, we're looking for an investment in our housing. And the best way to do that is with an owner fixing up their property, getting it in great condition. That only adds to the housing stock within this community. And so this is an investment in that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Overton?
So I agree, I think maybe, because I was thinking about it, and I'm thinking out or something, then they need to refinance them. Thing is I think you need to realize that the government requires us to have housing set aside money, and that money can be used for nothing else but housing. It can't be borrowed from. That's the only thing that the city cannot borrow from is the housing set aside money. So just so you're clarified, we don't have a choice. That money has to go towards housing, so in Clear Lake. So it can't be spent anywhere else, just so that you understand the concept of the program.
Just one comment. If the scenario that Councilwoman Overton says, so there must be something that shows up in title that warns a new lender come in that these conditions exist on that. So I assume that all will be included in it, right?
Yeah, we would want
Yeah.
to create a document, and record it on the property. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So it would be like a second on the
there'd be
property, correct?
Yeah.
It would be a second.
It's the same type of thing, it just, you aren't paying it back until you sell, so.
All right, we're still in public comment. We're still in public comment. I was going to see if any more public had comment. Anyone else? Sorry, I got to get back on track. Madam Clerk, anybody on Zoom wanting to comment on this item?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close public comment this time, bring it back for deliberation. Councilmember Kramer.
Yeah, I agree that I think the home should be owner occupied for the entire time that we have the loan on it. There's a title report that's required and title when this happens, and the title report will give the story of what, you know, what might be owed, to make sure that we understand what's ahead of us. That we're in second place, or we're not looking to be in third or fourth place, right?
Not looking to be, no. Yeah.
No, I'm serious. The title report would say whether there's a first and a second. This program would be on a second, no lower than.
Right, well, I mean, you know, there shouldn't be multiple. We're gonna. There's a lot of ways, but that's where the title report is going to be really important.
Okay, any other comments? Very good. So, looking for direction. I don't want to speak for council. I've tried this before and usually get my hand slapped, but I'll try again. It looks as though we'd like to move forward with it. Can you bring it back? Councilmember, or Vice Mayor Claffey has a comment.
Oh, I just wanted to, I guess, question the council. Are we comfortable with the appreciation being the determining factor here, or do we want to have an interest rate? Or I haven't heard any comment about that yet.
I was fine with the appreciation valuation as
am I. Depreciation is one thing that would, I think I asked you that question earlier today, so
We now have item number 9 and 10, that, you know, this appreciation shall be waived and all that, so that has to change then. Those two bullet points have to change then, correct?
Right.
Well, it depends on what direction you give me.
Well, we said.
And I think it's clear on the one that it just be owner occupied the entire time. There were a couple things mentioned about the appreciation part of it and whether, you know, this was the council's idea last time about giving some benefit if you stayed in the house for 10 years. Like, we can just completely do away with that, or as Councilmember Overton mentioned, you know, maybe after 10 years that is 50% of the appreciation. We can do it however you like.
I think that like at that point, 10 years or 15, whatever we decide, I don't think we should go back and say, oh, you don't have to pay anything, because, you know.
No, I think they need to pay back the loan.
Everybody does that. But I think that, I think we should get something, we're maintaining that loan, we have staff time in that loan. I think we have to get something out of it. I don't think we can waive everything. I think there has to be some money that comes back to the city. So I'm saying after 10 years, maybe that at the 10 years, there's an appraisal and the appreciation either stops there, or at the sale of the property. If it's 20 years, then we get maybe it's not the, you know, full percentage, maybe we knock it down some. But I do know that some money has to come back to the city to cover costs, at least the costs.
You mean above the loan amount?
Above the loan amount, yes.
Again, in 10 years, that property may not appreciate. It may have actually depreciated. So what are we doing that?
I've never seen that in California.
Well,
You haven't?
Mm-mm.
You
Go ahead.
haven't?
No,
Wow.
Not over the long term, but.
not over the long term. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I've seen it.
Every 5 years, you kind of estimate what, you know, there's ups, there's.
Maybe we just eliminate that altogether. I mean, not having a monthly payment and not having any interest accrue really like a normal loan is a pretty big benefit to the employee.
Very big.
I think so too.
Do we-
I agree with that.
Do we know what it would cost for this program for the city?
Well, I mean, you can,
Depends on how many.
Oh, just
apply.
Depends on how many
for one loan. So if we were to say, we waive, so we only cover costs, do we know what that amount is approximately?
so,
Well, if you have the
Depends on the
loan
amount
committee
of
look
loan.
at it, it just doesn't cost that much.
Right.
No, but you have county, and all this other paperwork that has to be done.
Yeah.
I say, take that 10 years off and just keep the appreciation. If most everything's gonna appreciate, very seldom are you gonna have a loss. Even if you do have one here and there, it's not gonna be a huge loss.
Okay, we still
So
have to.
if there's a loss, then we'll be eating whatever those expenses are that you and I believe are gonna happen in maintaining the loan.
You're not gonna lose the whole amount of the loan, there's still have to
No.
pay the loan.
No, the loan.
Can I weigh in on that?
Yeah, well, yeah, there, you can weigh in on anything you want. You're the-
Well, no, but I disagree. I think if we're going to be doing this, the city should be made whole on the amount of the loan, regardless of depreciation. If there's appreciation, then we might recognize a bit of a payoff.
But
Profit, okay,
the whole reason we wanted this program is to attract and keep.
Absolutely.
employees. So that has to be the focus. So I'm just paying the loan off, because to hire a new police officer, that kind of cost goes way beyond any.
well,
But if they
I don't know,
sell-
I don't know that we can gift public funds.
No, they have to pay the loan off, but
Okay.
no appreciation.
But what I do appreciate is if we have someone, and I've seen this with past city employees, they like to have their home is a nice place, and they're going to beautify it, they're going to beautify the neighborhood, they're going to bring that type of environment in. That's the whole purpose of that. It's the whole purpose between the Putting Cops in Neighborhoods program was to help support the neighborhood and improve the city. So I really like this program for that aspect.
If they can afford the water rates, of course.
They can afford to, exactly, Mr. Flora, thank you for bringing that up again. Yes, Councilmember Overton.
So I know you don't want them to pay anything back on this, but in order to keep programs like this going as prices go up, let's say 20 years from now, this $75,000 we loan them is pocket change at that point in time. It wouldn't be there would be no turnaround. In other words, you're going to say this program's going to be for these 20 people, and it's never going to continue if you don't have something coming back into it. So I am for the appreciation, because if they appreciate, then we get something. If it doesn't appreciate, they still just pay the loan, so they're not gonna have to pay anything back. But $75,000 in 20 years is gonna be what the closing costs are, so it wouldn't even be a down payment for them. So in order to keep this program actually going, it's gonna have to have some kind of money coming back. So I believe in the appreciation part at sale. But the rest of this can,
Agreed. Vice Mayor?
Well, the incentive is the 10 years of service. So what if we say at that 10-year point, we either cut it in half?
And that's fine.
Cut what in half?
Give them a
The
break,
appreciation.
yeah.
So rather than the full appreciation amount
have a
at
problem
10
with
years,
that.
we cut it in half. That covers our costs. That puts a little bit of money back into the program, and
Right.
And we've got a beautiful home in a nice neighborhood.
I think with the condition that the money does go back into the program.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with
That
that.
I
consensus?
think you got it.
We have consensus? You have
Good to me,
direction?
I think so, yep.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you all.
Can I ask when you think this program will start?
Nope. I'm kidding.
That's okay, you're the mayor.
No, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I know there's one employee that's kind of waiting to see,
Term chomping at the bit.
so I think, we could, early next year, maybe have one of them in the program already.
That'd be great. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing it next year. All right, moving on to item I, city manager and council member reports. Mr. Flora.
A few things. So there's been a bit of turmoil this week related to the city hall remodel. We won't get into all the details here, but there's going to be some delays to our planned move on December 1st. They'll spare the details for later, but it's a little disappointing. We still got some stuff to work out. Hopefully we'll have a plan finalized at some point towards the end of next week, but it's going to be, if we're lucky, the very end of December, probably more likely early January when we're able to move back in.
Is Woodland College okay with that?
Yeah, there really isn't any pressure. That is very nice that there's no real pressure for the space right now. So I think certainly the culinary program will miss us when we're gone. We did have, just wanted to bring this up as an early idea, but we had a meeting with some other jurisdictions, the Workforce Board and some other folks who are trying to find some government agencies in Northern California to implement an apprenticeship program for certain types of employees. So, we don't have, we're small enough that there's not a lot of people that would fit in this, but it's kind of an intriguing program. So we're going to throw around some more ideas with them and see if that's something we might be able to take advantage of.
Is that with some of the unions that are represented for our?
Yeah, not here locally. We would have to get some union involvement, of course, in that situation with our local people. But yeah, there's a few different programs. There's Calbright, which I don't know if you've heard of, and then Next Gen. There's a nonprofit that is helping work on this and put this together with our Workforce Board. So. Could be kind of cool. We'll see, if we can work something out or not. Woodland Community College, I don't want to steal Councilmember Slotin's thunder. I'm sure he'll want to mention this, encourage everyone to attend. But next week, November 9th, at 5 p.m. is the Board of Trustees meeting. They're actually having it here. There continues to be a lot of concern on the leadership's commitment to this campus, which we believe is very critical for the community. And so encourage anyone to show up at that meeting at 5 o'clock, at least be seen and pack the room. And if you feel like it, maybe make some comments about how important this campus is for the community. We've been talking about water a little bit tonight. Working with an expert that I recently met that is going to help us with some water district related work here in the city. Very deep knowledge in a variety of different water districts, and I think he's going to be helpful. Probably have him help us with the Golden State rate case a little bit, and then some of the other issues that are going on with our water districts. Found out, I think yesterday, that the state controller approved our proposed direct tax sale, which was quite shocking that they were that efficient. No, this is a state controller. She's state treasurer, so Betty Yee, I believe. I know I get questions from some of the council members, the length of time it's taken for the cell tower to be installed on the sign over by Starbucks. It's been a couple of years now. They are doing some work on that. Just today I got an email with the final proof on the Clearlake logo that will cover that cell tower on the very top of that sign. So they are moving forward on that, and I think they're expecting to have all that work done early December.
So that will improve cell phone coverage throughout the city, hopefully?
I guess that's the goal. We'll see. I believe it's a U.S. cellular tower. So,
Can't hurt.
Yeah. And then, there's a lot of webinars coming up on various changes in state law. Every year there's so many bills that are passed. So there's a lot of stuff with zero emission vehicles that we're going to be required to do. There's a lot of new housing stuff. We've talked a lot about some of the affordable housing developments. SB 35 went into place, which basically removes almost all of our discretionary authority on housing developments. Well, AB 423 was signed into law, which further limits that discretion, and it's hard for me to even imagine, like, every time I see one of these bills, I think it can't be worse, and then they figure out how to make it worse. But in fact, there's a provision now in certain situations that if a local jurisdiction refuses for some reason to approve a housing development, that the state can just approve it from their end and basically take jurisdiction over the approval process. So anyway, going to be a lot over the next few months, doing a lot more trying to catch up on that and make sure we don't get in trouble. So with that, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. Councilmember Overton?
Well, I've been very busy just trying to keep up with the moving out of our senior center. So we're kind of getting settled in at the Masonic Lodge. And hopefully our renovation on the kitchen part will start this week. But the driveway, or the parking lot looks beautiful. Awesome. Got something started here. I'm so happy that everybody is like saying, oh, it looks great. So definitely looks great. And I appreciate that part. So we're going to be talking about our politicians. They're going to be in town on Sunday for the Democrat barbecue. So if anybody wants to meet with them, go to their barbecue. That's the place to be, because that's where they're all gonna be. Congressmen, senators, assemblymen, they're all gonna be there. So if you want to talk to them, that's where you should be to, get your ticket now, because
And that's happening where?
That's at the Obsidian School at the back.
Cornelius Center.
Yeah. So, and the senior center is going to be catering it, so that's even, 2 for 1, so help them pay us. We're kind of down on our seniors there at the thing, so kind of encourage the seniors to come. It is, actually, once we got settled in there, it's a big place, and it's, it's still going. The food's still good. I hope you guys come for breakfast, so it's still going okay, right? So I'm just hoping we'll be trying to get everything else moved out this, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and hopefully Monday we'll be kind of done out of there. So then we'll just, our offices are still open there, though, so the building is still open for services for seniors and their families. So outside of that, I am going to be gone for a week, just to let you guys know. I'm leaving next Wednesday, so I'm taking a week off, because if I don't, I'll probably fall apart. So I'll be gone for a week. So
I just wish you wouldn't announce it, because usually stuff happens after that.
No. I'm going, I don't care. No, I don't care, I'm going. It's been planned, so
Right.
I believe I'll be back for the council meeting, though, so I should be.
Thank you.
I should be in time for that.
Thank you.
There's no second.
You don't have one till December 7th, so you should be good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Take 2 weeks.
I don't think they could arrive without me, and they're not too happy I'm taking off now, but I booked it like a long time ago.
Councilmember Slotin?
Again, and to reiterate what our city manager says about the Lake County campus of Woodland College, it's the morale is really low. Certain programs that they wanted are available in other campuses, except here. So they're kind of deflated. I've met now with the new chancellor, a couple of times. And, it's probably an uphill battle for him too. But I think the critical thing is to have permanent leadership in both, unless they want to change the alignment to Yuba from Woodland. That would be one option, because I've met the president of Yuba College now also a couple of times. She's a very dynamic lady that is in. And then there are 4 candidates for the Woodland College presidency, which is, I don't know if you saw the news, the Lake County news today. I have not been involved in that selection, but we need stable leadership both there and definitely over here. Because programs are, it's hard to maintain good morale here when people feel that they're not being supported out of Woodland. So that's a big critical item. That's it.
Thank you. Council members, Kramer.
Yes, I don't have much. I did go to attend a meeting of the fire chiefs last week, asked them whether they would support developing a program of home inspection and checklists to encourage, incentivize them to make their home more fire resilient. They're thinking it over, looking it over, and I'll be meeting back with, staying in touch with Chief Cepeda, and CAL FIRE Chief Duncan is interested, and Supervisor Crandall actually is showing an interest. And the idea would be to, when the insurance companies do come back in, to try to get the most reasonable rate that we can negotiate with them. So that's the purpose of the program.
Just, I want an additional comment on that. Insurance rates are going through the roof. I had a quote a month ago, I got a quote today, double.
Yeah, my insurance coverage terminated under last year, and under the fair plan, my rate went up 3 times, and my coverage is basic coverage as opposed to the full coverage I had before. And that's not, most of the people I talk to are telling me similar stories. So I think it's really important that we, that we be on the forefront of it, be ready, because I think insurance companies will come back in, and they will be at higher rates. But even at higher rates, I don't think they'll be higher than what the fair plan rates are now, and the coverage, I believe, would be much better. It'll be back to what we, once had. Hopefully, it won't stay up at 3 times or 2 times, but they're going to be higher before they come back in. But again, the main thing is to try to develop a plan of checklist that a homeowner can look at and do that will be accepted by the insurance company as something that will positively impact their rates, rather than just looking at an overall area and say, well, that area is, it's got to be that rate. It'll be kind of like the ISO rates that are developed that would be, applied directly to the insurance companies. At least that's the idea that I envision. So that process has started. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You may want to do over, Mr. Kramer. I'd very much like to thank the city of Clearlake for being a sponsor at the luau that I attended. I think it went off very well. I'd like to thank Councilmember Kramer, who's also serving as treasurer of the Clearlake Chamber. He was the chair, along with Joan Mangori. Both did a great job. Everyone that attended that I spoke to had a good evening, and we raised some money for FFA. Always great to see the kids there. They're great leaders in our local high school, and I believe they were traveling to where? I forget. Somewhere in the Midwest for training, and they were very excited. Raised almost $6,000 in the dessert auctions, which is always great fun and great to see the kids. I'd like to thank our finance director. She was there bidding things up.
Spent money on
bidding things up, and it was great to see everybody there. It was a wonderful community event, and I'm deeply grateful for that.
And our city administrator was also there. I don't know how much money you might have spent if you were there.
But anyway, I hope everybody had a good time.
I don't need to do a do-over. You did a great job.
All right. Well, I was trying. Anyway, I attended no other meetings, but looking forward to Thanksgiving, since we won't be having this meeting or another meeting, city council meeting prior to that. So I wish everyone well, and we'll move on to future agenda items. Does anybody have anything they would like to see on an agenda?
And I understand that in January or February, the county will adopt, or is going to work on or adopt a ban on, what is it? Alan, help me out. I got lost. Tobacco sales, and regulated. So hopefully with that, if that comes through the county, maybe we can work on that here too.
Yeah, it was a shame you weren't at the luau, Lieutenant, because Peterson was there and he was a lot of fun. Yeah, well, you're probably having fun too.
That's a good place to go.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, we're going to close this meeting, and we will reconvene in 10 minutes for closed session.